All right. So interesting opportunity. I thank God for that. Amazing that I have this chance to have a different conversation from the usual conversations I do have in the studio. Usually in Spanish as well. So having this conversation in English is going to help me a lot as I hope that people that are watching, it's going to be helpful for them because I have a wonderful guest here, Jesse Stark. How are you, Jesse?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Hopefully, we can put the captions for anybody who doesn't speak English, and I am learning
Of course,
little by little,
definitely.
little by little. Give me the time.
Jesse Stark, originally from U.S. Where from actually from U.S. From the U.S.
So I was born in Brooklyn,
Brooklyn?
Coney Island Hospital. Lived there till I was 14. We moved to Miami due to family reasons. Moved to Miami, so I was pretty much raised in Miami till my 20s, early 20s, and left for college to Detroit. Stayed in Detroit, tattooed in Detroit, trained in Detroit, boxing and jiu-jitsu in Detroit for about 15 years. And I had a time frame where I was back and forth between Detroit and Killeen, Texas.
Nice. Well, Jesse Stark, people. This is going to be a wonderful conversation. Off the record, I was having a very educational conversation of martial arts. Jesse, as you heard, is a martial artist practitioner. He is a purple belt at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He also has a boxing background, and he is a more than that. He's a martial artist believer and an evangelist of it. And the moments I've had chance to have conversations with him about it, I become more very inspired on just following this journey. And for me, it's also an honor to be having this conversation with you, Jesse. Thank you for this space and time.
Oh, dude, it's my honor, man. I've never been on a podcast before. I've always wrote or expressed things in class. I never had an opportunity to really speak to people in this fashion. I listen to them all the time, right? Like Joe Rogan stuff.
Right, yeah.
But first time I actually feel kind of important, man. And I kind of appreciate you. I've never been in a spotlight like this, so it feels different. It's a
I
good
bet,
feeling.
I bet it. But it's for me also. I feel very happy to have this opportunity because I really think that conversations like this in Honduras is it's necessary, and
Yes.
I've been fortunately enough that to meet people that live and are passionate on the martial arts practice, and having this opportunity to express a little bit about what what perceptions jujitsu we have of practicing jujitsu we have. I wanted to pick your brain because you wrote a book. You have a book, and it's a book that I would love to support in audio because I feel that your story and the way you express yourself of the practicing of jujitsu, it's for me a very rewarding experience, and I feel grateful for it. And the fact that I've been I've had the chance to talk to very passionate and very educated people on this matter. It's just for me, it's just more. It's very gratifying because it only adds up to my wise to gaining more wisdom and just the learning to be humble because sometimes my ego deceits
Amen.
me horribly. So
I think it does for all of us,
right,
right? So we can't let go of it, but we can learn to tame it, and through seeking the wisdom of God and those who express His wisdom, they can definitely help us with our ego. But we need it for certain things.
yeah,
If you defeat it completely, you defeat your purpose of this short term we have on this planet before we enter the next realm. The ego is always involved, and like any tool, you can use a hammer to destroy, you can use a hammer to build, Sometimes you have to destroy to rebuild. And not everybody will agree with you or understand why it had to be that way, right? But you can't plant, right, an apple tree and then expect oranges. You know, you try to put GMO seeds or science to turn them into oranges, but it's an apple tree ultimately, right? It's an apple tree. So the only way that you could, the truth of getting your apples is you have to uproot that original seed and replant apple trees, and it's hard. It's hard to do that, right? Just like it's hard for a karate black belt who's been doing karate for 20 years, come to a jiu-jitsu school, get taken down by a blue belt and tapped out. He's got to admit, or she's got to admit, that there's something they don't know, and it's really hard to take off that black belt and put on a white belt and go home and say, man, you know, I got to commit myself to the truth. And, you know, as the Buddha says, I'm Christian, but I read a lot. You know, I'm a very, very nerdy guy. You know, like deep down I'm nerdy. I read all the time. And, you know, like the Buddha is just someone who is willing to suffer. And it's not necessarily meaning that you seek suffering. It's just that when you seek the truth, suffering comes with it. And the more you try to avoid suffering, the more you suffer because you isolate yourself. You live a life of avoidance. So you're always looking to never climb the tree because you don't want to fall. So you never get the experience of climbing the tree. Even if you skin your knee or you hurt yourself, life is very short. And so our egos are just as fragile. And they need to be able to climb trees and fall. And they also need the support and wisdom of God, family, mentors to say, hey, you know, you don't want somebody to tell you, oh, no, you see, that's why you don't climb trees, right? Never climb a tree again. You want somebody to say, oh, look, you know, when you climb a tree next time, check the branch, you know, it could be dead. So tap it before you put your weight on there, but keep climbing trees. But your ego gets humbled at that moment where you don't climb a tree the same, but you also know that you could get hurt. And that's like the same parable of fear and courage, right? You need both. Without fear, there's no courage. Without courage, there's no fear, right? So it's the yin and the yang of life.
Right. So I like the way you express yourself on different metaphors of how anybody can learn the fundamentals of practicing martial arts, in this case jiu-jitsu. And your book, which is can you explain us a little bit of what's it called and what is the main purpose of the book, and also feel free to also share some of the thoughts and ideas that you have written down on your book, please.
Oh, sure, man. So well, I got most of that from the very few people who did read it, right? Because you know, not everybody's readers nowadays. Like most people are into the audiobooks, or if they're reading to gain some kind of financial gain, or you know. But I'm glad we're in the day and age where people are looking for self-improvement and growth. So I think maybe it might be a good time for now. But that book came from 5 years of the hardest 5 years of my jiu-jitsu experience. Learning from Master Joe, learning from my professor, Stephen Baker, in Michigan, who is, to me, one of the most diamond gem black belts out there. He's so humble, so cool. You wouldn't even know. He's like just a regular surfer, super cool dude. But, I mean, to roll with him is just like, you never felt anything like that in your life. I mean, it's amazing. I'm not going to curse, but, I mean, he's freaking, like, dude, you got to feel him. He'll be coming to Honduras, too. I'm looking forward to him coming and, you know, whooping me up in front of everybody. But that book came from being off the mats for 2 years. I suffer from chronic pain, 15 years of pain that we have not been able to solve. Thousands of dollars, hundreds of doctors, over 250 ER visits, Baker acted many times, suicidal, loss of relationships, loss of homes, restarting consistently, living nomadically because of my limitations, being unable to accept work because 2 months later, I'd have to leave and couldn't get disability because I was too young and they couldn't diagnose the issue. And it took 15 years to finally figure out that I was suffering from something called bow hunter's syndrome, where my vertebral artery and a couple of nerves have been entrapped at C1, which was causing me to faint, constant headaches that feel like I was having like a stroke or like a migraine that would never go away. And trying to live like that is just terrible. You know what I mean? Just being trapped in general, right? Imagine being trapped in a cell for 15 years, mentally, physically, or spiritually. It's a prison, you know, chronic, for all those who are suffering from chronic pain. It's a prison. And I spent 9 to 5 trying to solve that problem, you know, being a jiu-jitsu practitioner, and I couldn't fix it. And I had to just submit, right? Which is a big deal when we're talking about jiu-jitsu in general. I had to really, truly submit to God to be able to get through that time. And what ended up happening was my last day on the mat was November in 2021. I was teaching a regular kids class. I had already been fainting enough. And I was finding myself irritated in class because of pain. And I never get irritated. I love jiu-jitsu too much. But I was getting irritated because my patience level was just with dealing with the pain. And I was showing just like a simple back take, and I fainted in front of all the kids. And, you know, they sent the ambulance. They took me to the hospital. They couldn't figure it out, but I knew that was my last day. Couldn't do it anymore. I was in my house for about 2 weeks. I wanted to die. My mom came, and I had a very special visit from God who told me, you know, that our spirit is the only thing we take with us if there is another side, right? And I'm an avid reader of the Bible, and I do believe that we do go somewhere when we die, depending on how we live our life. But to simplify it is to say that the only thing you take with you on the other side is the state of your spirit. So if your spirit is in turmoil, if you decide to take your life from chronic pain, or you know, God takes your life while you're sick, and you don't forgive everybody, you don't repent, you don't find a peaceful lake in your heart, what'll happen is you'll go to this other side with this tormented spirit, and you can't bring anything to help you with it. So there's no hugs over there, right? There's no love over there. So God saved me by having me call my mother, and my mother came, and I was cleaning my house and getting ready to do this horrible act. And I called my mom, and I just was wailing. It was the first time in maybe, 20 years I laid on her lap, and she just scratched my head all night. I just couldn't stop crying, and she knew like it was serious at that point because I had already had so much stuff done. I mean, I had injections in my back for my birthday, like trying to check to see if I had CSF leaks. It was just constant poking and prodding and nothing working, and neurosurgeon after neurosurgeon, pain specialist after pain specialist, medication after medication. So I was just like over it. So we decided to go to Florida, where they had the good doctors, and my sister had just bought a home there, thank God, and she offered me a room to stay. And I basically stayed in that room for 2 years, very depressed, gained a lot of weight, couldn't train, couldn't do anything, just seeing over 70 doctors. I had 9 surgeries, had a stent placed in my neck, bone removed from my neck, all these things. Traveled, got MR neurography. I'm due for an ablation now. I'm being managed on medication, so I'm able to train. But during that time, because I can't just sit still, I said, if I'm going to die, or if I'm not going to be here and I don't have anything to leave anyone, I ran out of money. I ran out of everything. And the money that I was making, I was sending to my wife here in Honduras. I met her online, and she was just there for me for 2 years. We spoke. That's how I met her. I mean, if it wasn't for her, she's my angel. She kept me alive. The kindness. My sister is amazing, but we didn't have the same relationship. Melissa, just kindness every day and checking on me, and I just felt love even from a distance. So she motivated me to seek God, to do something. And that's where the book came from. The book was written over 5 years of tumultuous study. I mean, just getting ripped apart by Steve, and dealing with just conflict on and off the mat. So I titled the book Life on the Mats, Universal Jiu-Jitsu Wisdom, 400 meditations, I've been told that it's kind of like the Psalms book of Psalms for jiu-jitsu, or like Marcus Aurelius's Meditations for jiu-jitsu. But really, the book is about conflict resolution, and it's not note taking on positions, techniques, and things like that. It's very much written as the Bible is written as Jesus spoke, not comparing myself in any way, but just copying from the best, right? By using parables. So, a good example, we would say, you never turn your back away from your opponent, for they will surely choke you. You can transfer that into your life and say, well, if I just let that sink keep leaking, it's going to grow mold. So I need to face that problem. So we teach in jiu-jitsu, we never turn our back, right? Don't turn your back, even if you're going to do a Seoinage throw. When you turn your back, you're already opening up the chance to get choked, right? So why not go for the single or the double, right? Or if you're going to do that, make sure you hit them really hard on the hips, bump them back so that their posture is broken and that you can literally see their face. Because now you're not looking at the back, you're facing the problem still. And when you throw them, you're right on top, right? So this book was about how can we transfer universal jiu-jitsu, like how does it work? If it doesn't work on the mat, it doesn't work for self-defense, it doesn't work in competition, God's laws, God's rules. Has to work in all aspects. Otherwise, I don't see it as a viable lesson. It's not to say that you could teach competition jiu-jitsu and teach people to underhook the legs to get to leg locks, but we've seen in UFC, you go for an underhook on a leg, you look like a Ryan Hall, you just got punched in his face, right? So you train that for 10 years, it's really hard to break that habit. And then you go and you try to bring it into a rule set where someone can punch you, and there you go. You find that it's not universal. So instead of doing that entry, you might want to do an entry that keeps your face protected or where you have control of that arm. So that's the jiu-jitsu that we focus on and try to teach, which is very effective. I mean, it's very simple and very effective. And the book kind of just gives parables that relate to life. For instance, fundamentals. One of the parables in the book states, you wouldn't, if your roof was leaking, you wouldn't go and get new carpets, right? You're going to fix your roof first, right? So same thing in jiu-jitsu. Like, why are you trying to learn how to do omoplatas and barambolos and all these things? Learn how to hold mount. Learn how to hold the back. Base. Start with base. Why are you starting from standing and I can easily just push you over? Why am I even taking grips if I don't know how to stand in base? Right? Why am I even practicing if I don't feel worthy? Right? Like Henry Gracie says, right? First rule of self-defense, you got to love yourself first, or actually have the courage to try to love yourself. Otherwise, everything we show makes no sense, because you're the first person that's going to attack yourself, whether it's bad food, bad thoughts, right? You find yourself getting in cars with people you shouldn't be getting in cars with. Walking down streets wearing tight skirts in bad neighborhoods, right? And you're expecting the police to defend you. It's wrong. Men shouldn't attack you, but for thousands of years, we've been doing that. And we know the nature of men can be violent and evil, right? So if you give yourself out there as a victim, not prepared to deal with the consequences, right, then there's an issue. There's an issue of self-love. There's an issue of an educational matter. Now, if I had a daughter, or not to say I don't want to make any feminists upset, but if I had a daughter who was 21 and it's her birthday and she wants to go out and look sexy and go out on a party, and she's smart enough to know not to drink and drive and get in a car with people who are drinking and driving, she's practicing safety, she can dress as sexy as she wants, especially if she knows jiu-jitsu. Because if I get a phone call, I'm most likely going to be like, is the other person okay? And my daughter's not going to expect some man to come in and help her, or some police officer to come in and help her. The fact of the matter is, justice can happen, but it's usually after it's too late, right? Prevention is the highest level of escape. That's another thing. Why do we teach people? You got a lot of guys out there, even some of the best, I don't want to mention names, and coaches that they teach, okay, let's learn to escape first. Every position, because I want you to be comfortable with everything. Escape, escape. But how can you teach a student to escape all the time when they don't even know the armbar? So how do they know what they're escaping from? Like if you know every aspect of the dominance of the armbar, then you know when that person is making a mistake that you can escape from. Otherwise, you don't know what you're escaping from, and your escapes are going to suck. You're also teaching a person to escape. Think about that. So that person's going to go smoke weed and have a beer and turn his back on shit, or he's got a relationship problem with his wife, so he can come, even coming to the jiu-jitsu mats just to roll around and be with your boys and have a good time. And at home, things aren't working out, and you're escaping. You're escaping mentally. So training someone to escape only puts the idea and concept in their mind that they will always have to escape because they're not good enough to take care of themselves. The best thing to do is to teach them to dominate the situation and the conflict. Give them all the tools to have the base, understand positions, the pinning, the having control of the situation, the angles, the flow. When you have to escape, it's going to be because someone's better than you, and you'll have to learn to do it at that point in time, but you'll have a better idea. And then you can start messing around. But I never teach escapes first. And call it what you want as a purple belt or whatever. I'm pretty much obsessed with jiu-jitsu. And, I'm open to all challenges. But the way I see things is I don't want my kid to learn how to escape the stranger's van or the stranger's basement. Like, how do you get out of there? I want my kid to learn how to never be in that van, never be in the basement.
Right.
I want him to be able to see that and feel that energy before it's even coming, to never accept that piece of candy, right? So by teaching a person the confidence first, giving them those wins, that is what's going to help that person in life. You teach a person for a year how to escape, they're going to be escaping everything that whole year. They're never going to believe that they're good enough to get on top of you. They're always going to be looking just to keep getting out, getting out, getting out, getting out.
It's very profound that what you're sharing, because it has to do with the sensibility of the mind. Because it's true. I believe what you're expressing has a deeper meaning, because life is what happens outside the mats, right?
Amen.
And the fact that when you're practicing, when you're doing kata, or when you're in the zone of doing the work for learning an ability, your mind is set on that, right? And you have to be very, not careful, but you have to be very wise on how you're gonna drive the aspect of teaching a skill. And I think that jiu-jitsu brings that, it opens up an awesome portal as a lifestyle, as a philosophy, as a way of thinking, because it's relatable. You're saying to yourself, and it's true. I mean, if you only base yourself on escaping, I mean, what's the purpose of escaping, right? Otherwise, I mean, in another take, if you start building up fundamentals to become a good practitioner, those fundamentals are gonna open up they're gonna open up other portals in your mind that you never thought of. And that's what happened to me when jiu-jitsu, because I was saying off the record as well, when I met this friend that helped me get into jiu-jitsu, at first I didn't like him, and it was because the fact that I wanted that,
Right.
and I didn't accept that, because deep in my mind I thought I was okay with the way I was, but when I accepted that, and I started, starting to put the work, I realized, wow, I never thought I was able to, like, me as a person, I was able to do this.
Yeah.
I was into soccer and stuff like that, I don't even play soccer anymore, man. I don't care about it. I'm just as
There's a wormhole, man. Jiu-jitsu can take you down that.
exactly, and I'm starting to get the
Same,
feel of it.
I don't tattoo anymore. Hey, I feel you. It's a takeover.
And I just feel like nowadays, and you're talking about a daughter. I have a 2-month-old daughter.
Oh man, amen. Congratulations.
So like, and I'm basing my life on a very martial arts lifestyle that I want to build, because I want them to feel safe. Not only because I'm trying to provide for them, but because of the fact that they can also do that for themselves.
That's right.
And it struck me so hard, all your story, man, because people should be grateful and feel privileged on the fact that we have here in Honduras so many chances of practicing this.
We do. Yeah.
We just gotta get that lizard mind out a little bit and just try it out for a while,
I agree.
and that could be the starting base of something that can change your life.
I agree. And our time is different than 40 years ago. You got way new ways of how jiu-jitsu is being presented, right? Like, look at CGI and Craig Jones and the whole, what people might say is disrespectful to martial arts, and we have to accept what the truth is. But the thing is, the extraction of what we took from kicking ass, right? We were talking about this prior to the podcast. It's a beautiful thing that Bruce Lee would create mixed martial arts through Jeet Kune Do and grab all the things effective from every study and take what is we've heard that proverb before, take what is useful, right? And all those things. Useful for what is the real question, though, right? Like, just because I took the things that helped me be able to physically kick somebody's ass doesn't mean that I'm a good person. Maybe a bully takes that information and uses it against good people. So we forgot to extract some of the beautiful things that martial arts gave us, like Chinese Kung Fu and, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu and Aikido and all these things that people say aren't effective. But you don't understand the peace of that practice that comes to your spirit, and also how it is effective even in jiu-jitsu. I mean, I'm doing Aikido all the time in jiu-jitsu. I'm wrist locking the hell out of everybody, But also, there's a flow that comes from these arts and from these practitioners that help us to have a healthy lifestyle, just in general, for our spirit, for our mind. We got to stop extracting things that we think is important based on what is pressed upon us, right? Like, one of the questions that I ask in my book, and I'm not trying to bring up my book or promote my book.
Oh, well, please do.
The book, the reason why I put the book out there is because I thought, if I die, I have to leave something, right? So I just put everything I know about jiu-jitsu and conflict resolution, mind, spirit, body, conflict resolution, everything I know about it. That's all I had. I got a computer full of all my art. I could give all that away, but that's not, I didn't see value in that as much as the wisdom that God had given me. And I wanted to have that available. And of course I gave it to all these people and they didn't read it. And what's funny is people who were actually used to be my enemies actually read it and they enjoyed it very much. And I got some really nice feedback and I was really thankful for it. But one of the statements in the book, or one of the parables, is the parable of the rotten peach, right? So, Gustavo, if I were to ask you and say, which is better, right? And I had two peaches here on the table, and I said, hey, Gustavo, man, which one do you think is better, this rotting, smelly peach or this sweet, ripe one? What would be your answer?
I would say the one that's not rotten.
Right. So most people would say that based on the concept and preference of, I'm looking at these peaches as I want to eat them. Mm-hmm. But what about the person who creates liquor and they need the fermented peach?
Right.
What about somebody who has a farm and they prefer the composted peach because it's going to help fertile their land, and the seeds are already going to germinate quicker. You know, what about what we need for our worm farms? The worms can eat that and help our soil. Different preferences, not what is better. Better, the term better is so crazy to me. I hate the term because it doesn't inspire the idea of a positive growth environment. It just pushes the idea of be better, be better, be better. But what better at what? You know, your father and my father had billions of sperm enter our mothers. And the egg chose to fertilize one. Yeah, sometimes you have twins and things like that. But the fact of the matter that we're even here talking right now is a miracle. We can't be better than that.
That is true.
It's like stars in the sky. I mean, to create a star, you know how much it takes, how much gravitational pull it takes to pull all these things together over billions of years to create a star? Like, we're the same thing. We're already the best. God made us the best we could be. But yet we suffer a divorce and we want to go work out and get better and get bigger and be desired. Or we suffer a loss in jiu-jitsu as a blue belt and people keep passing our guard or something like that. And we're down on ourselves and we're like, I got to get better. I need a better guard. You're the best, bro. You're a miracle. You're here. Once you know what you're here, that you're here and you're the best, you focus on what you're here to do for God. How are you serving as God's cell, right? If we're all a cell of God, and let's say, Gustavo, you're a brain cell, and I'm a heart cell. And then all of a sudden you see me up there because brain cells make $100,000 a year. Heart cells make $75,000 a year. And I'm up there with you. And you're looking at me and you're like, bro, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I want to be a brain cell, bro. Like, I just don't, it's better. It's better. And you're like, dude, we need you down there. Like, you're actually fucking everything up over here, right? Like this, you know, and you're not connected to what you need. And you're wondering why you're lost and why you're stressed and why you're unhappy with this job trying to be a brain cell, because that's not your purpose. You're a cell in the heart of God. And we respect you, bro. Like, because you need to be there for us to function, right? Just like there's 7 noble professions, right? You got your artist, you got your warrior, you got your healer, you've got your builder, you've got your teacher, you've got the man, I gotta go through it. There's 2 more. The healer, the warrior, the artist, the teacher, the builder, and
doctor, maybe?
The merchant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all of these people can work together harmoniously to be the janitors of earth, right? And do right by God when they find their purpose in it. Now, let's say you find that you're in your heart at 18 years old, you're a healer. That doesn't mean you need to go get a Western medicine degree. Maybe you're a physical therapist. Maybe you're somebody that is a talk therapist. Maybe, you know, you're focused on food and nutrition. The farmer, it's the other one, the farmer. Maybe your farmer is growth, right? You know, healer is compassion, love, empathy. The warrior is the protector, the security. We need all these things. These are the purposes that God has given upon us. Once we find our place in these professions, we have to be in that place and grow where we are planted with respect to all of the other purposes of human nature on this planet, knowing that without them, we do not exist, right? So if I just focus 100% on being a warrior and I'm a black belt at that, but I don't have blue belts with the others, like I don't have a blue belt in merchantry, I don't have a blue belt in being a farmer, I don't have a blue belt in being a teacher, then I will be isolated. I have to have an understanding and a connection to all these people in the world. And as we get older, some of us can achieve black belts in all of it, right? So that's the nature of a really beautiful growth-filled environment, right? Which is what we were talking about prior to. Like, I don't believe in the old traditional ways specifically, where there's like all these rules and, you know, oh, you need to tie your belt a certain way, and you forget your gi, you can't train. I'm just happy you showed up, man, to train, right? Like we let go of a lot of these things in our 2024 way of thinking, where like, hey, you know, it's harder. People need to be babied a little bit more. We can't just throw shit on people. If you're training something, you gotta start it little by little. You gotta be allowed to make mistakes. You can't get punished for making a mistake. That you should be rewarded for trying and keep on going, right? Kids don't start anything anymore because they see so many people good at everything on social media that they're afraid to start anything, right? You know the saying, you don't need to be great to start, you need to start to be great. Once you start, you're already moving more ahead than anybody else. How many times have we wanted to watch a movie and we spend an hour just scrolling through fucking movies, sorry to curse, through these movies, but we don't even pick one, right? We're in this world of people who can't make a choice. I mean, I got people on my Facebook, I'm throwing a wrestling event. It's like 50 people interested, 2 people going. And I'm like, interested means no to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does.
It just means no to me. But I got to understand that people are babied and it's too many options. And, we got to give credit to this new generation that it's really hard when you go to the grocery store and there's like 50 different peanut butters. Like, I wouldn't know what to do either. Like, our parents had it lucky. They went to go pick me up some peanut butter. They didn't get a cell phone call like, which one, Dad? It was one, right?
Yeah.
So it was easier. But so in our time, to make things easier, what I try to do is I don't try to ban people for things, or it's just, you come in with bad energy, you're weird, you're harassing women, you're trying to hurt people. And then you're going to outcast yourself. You're not going to be in the gym, right? But you forget your gi. No, that's fine, bro. Oh man, I'm running a little late, man. Oh, that's fine. Try to be on time, but we can't move backwards for you. But yeah, get on the mats, dude. That's the idea, and just to be more relaxed and understanding with people, but still have rules and respect and certain disciplines, right? And as we had spoke prior to, we had discussed, which is another idea, which is written in the book as well, the idea of not trying to enforce someone to be better. You're only going to poison and toxify your children, your students, the people you're mentoring by constantly enforcing the idea of making them better. Just keep consistently your job as a teacher or a mentor or a parent or anything, a business owner, anyone who's creating anything, is to put your energy and support into the environment and make it a growth-filled environment and be an example, not a micromanager, right? Like, don't be OCD on everybody. Just do what's right and support an environment for what's right. And you'll see it just flourish as it grows, just like Steve's school, like my teacher's school. It's just an awesome experience to see a place where, you want to go to a wrestling camp and your teacher's like, that sounds awesome, go, man. And then you come back and you're like, Steve, can I show you this? And he's like, yeah, show me. And then you go to do it and he just counters it, messes you up, and you're like, oh, dang, I should have just stayed here and learned it. You know what I mean? You learn for yourself. He doesn't tell you why go there? I'll teach you. You don't need to learn from there. I know it, right? He's encouraging you. Here's our garden. Here's all these beautiful birds and butterflies and owls and ravens and all types of wonderful creatures in our garden. And there's no cages. There's no fences. Go, man. We said prior to this, we were saying, if my garden doesn't have grapes, but it has apples and oranges and all those stuff. And then somebody was saying in the garden, man, it'd be nice if we had some grapes in here. So one of our birds flies off and eats grapes and comes back to our garden and poops in our soil. Well, guess what? Grapes will start to grow, right? So you do want your students to go and explore and bring back new things,
You
new
mean
ideas.
that as a cross training, right?
Yeah, like any
Cross-training
idea
decision.
of cross-training,
Yeah.
or even just letting a blue belt teach a class with black belts.
That's
They have something, right? There's something that they are working on that they can
you need to
show
be
you.
You're right.
We always can learn from revisiting and giving people the opportunity to be free. Freedom is everything. And I don't mean to speak too much, but in regards to I wanted to get back to the concept of submission, right? Like the submission that I had to give to God, become a Christian and all those things. because I was fighting it for so long, angry, right? The best jiu-jitsu practitioners and the best fighters in the world, I don't know, whoever does jiu-jitsu, have ever experienced rolling, ever rolled with somebody that, you're gassed out, you used all your energy, this guy's just all over you, taps you out, and he's not breathing hard at all. He's like, hey, that was good. He gets up, walks away, and you're just like thinking that this dude is so strong or something. You don't know what it is. What's happening is this person is surfing you, okay? Like, you're the wave, and they're a master surfer. They don't control the wind. They don't control the water. They can only read patterns, and they can only stay balanced wherever the wave is choosing to go. So what's crazy is this is like something I think maybe you would understand. Not everybody would understand. A lot of jiu-jitsu people will understand this. Is the better practitioner, or the more skilled practitioner, not better, because there's no one better than anyone, but the more skilled practitioner you'll generally find, when it's effortlessly done and they are tapping you effortlessly, that person has submitted to you so many times before they submitted you once. By, oh, you want to go right? Okay, we go right. Oh, you want to go turtle? Okay, I got to take your back and do this. Oh, you put your arm out, I got to take the arm. Oh, you're going to Gambi roll? Okay, I got to go with it.
That is a beautiful thought, man.
They're not forcing their moves on you. They're not forcing what I want to do. I'm only doing what jiu-jitsu asks of me. So I'm submitting the entire roll in order to defend myself and do what jiu-jitsu asks of me, so that I can humble this person in a beautiful way, without strength, without ill intention, without intensity, right? And then in the end, okay, I choke you and I tap you because you opened the doors up and got me to the point where I had to take your back. And you go, oh man, I had to submit. And I'm like, dude, I just submitted like 50 times.
Exactly. Like 500 times. Even.
500
1,000 times.
I didn't want to do that. I actually wanted to work on my guard today. Oh, but you almost passed it, so I had to,
Yeah.
Or maybe today is just defense or whatever it is. But the higher level practice of jiu-jitsu is consistent submission to the wave. Right? It's consistent submission to the wave. And guess what? We fall all the time.
Yeah.
So your purple belt, you tap to a white belt, so what? That's your surfing, bro. You know what I mean? You're trying to figure out how to solve this problem in a beautiful way without using energy. And if that white belt crashes over you with energy and you choose to not hit back with energy, then you might get tapped. But you do want to humble people with beautiful jiu-jitsu, because if I come at you like Godzilla and you're coming at me like King Kong, and one of us wins, we both think that we know something, right? Like, we can't even give credit to the person who wins, because we're just like, yeah, I got a lot of stuff, I almost got him, all right. But when you get submitted by a guy that, like, it was effortless, it's like you stop doing that stuff. You're just like, okay, this stuff doesn't work. You're bodybuilder, you stop trying to like lift people off the ground, because you're like, dude, I can only do this with white belts. I can only do this with blue belts. You roll with this guy, and like everything I do, it's like it just comes right back to me, right? Like, that's the idea of beautiful jiu-jitsu. Like, how do we take ill intent and beautifully turn it not against our opponent, but humble our opponent in a wonderful, loving way, the way we would do our children, right? Like, why is this wrong?
Right.
How can I show you how this is wrong with love? And then after I tap you, help you up off the mat, give you a high five, and be like, man, keep going, dude. Don't miss class, man. You're gonna be doing this stuff too, I promise, right?
And this is great. This is great stuff, guys. That I've had the honor to listen to about life off the mats by Jesse Stark. This is our first podcast. We're gonna keep recording. My idea in Medios Modernos is precisely support the producing of the audiobook. So I feel great that we had this conversation, Jesse. I appreciate the fact that you have shared some wisdom in this episode, and expect us again very soon with other guests talking about martial arts, jiu-jitsu, and other stuff that happens in life that is gonna be amazing for us to express, because this is the path that we have chosen as martial arts artists, martial arts practitioners. And Jesse, I appreciate your time here.
Thank you,
And
brother. Yeah, I appreciate you. I want to tell you thank you for having me. Also, thank you to Master Joe Moreira for being there for me through all these hard times. Um, to my professor Steve, who set an amazing example on what I believe a growing jiu-jitsu environment is. To Master Hickson Gracie, who has always given some the advice about life off the mats, even though I've never had the opportunity to meet him. And my mother, thank you, Mom. Just for being there for me always. And I look forward to more and more talks about this stuff. And also to our teacher at Jaguar,
Rodolfo,
yeah, Coach Rodolfo. He is a wonderful example to
he
me,
is.
especially
Thank you.
here in Honduras. Thank you, Professor Rodolfo. I know you don't want anybody to call you that, but to me, you are. You create a very free, growth-filled environment, and that's why your school has grown so much in such a short time because of your open heart, your open mind, allowing us to learn on our own and coming back to you for advice and just you inspire me as a teacher as I'm learning, and I am proud to say that you are my teacher here in Honduras. And yeah, man, like you set the example of playfulness and fun and learning. And also, I didn't get a chance to say it. I was training with Raul Carrasco at Lobo in El Progreso, who is an amazing person, an amazing black belt, wonderful heart too big for himself, teaching free jiu-jitsu to kids, making champions over there, pushing people. I mean, he's going through so much, and he's still every day he's out there. You know, power outages, rain, hot, doesn't matter. He's out there, and I got the opportunity to train with him for a few months, and we didn't connect the same in regards to the approach to jiu-jitsu. But he teaches my son, and my son is awesome, and I wouldn't want him to go anywhere else. I love what he's learning over there, and I wanted to just tell people in Honduras, if you're anywhere in El Progreso and you don't have the money for jiu-jitsu, and you want your children to learn some of the real principles and dynamics of jiu-jitsu and principles of life, behavior, discipline, all these really good things. It's a traditional, strict environment, old school, but man, it's great, especially for kids. So I want to take the time, if anybody's listening, and you can get your kids over there, man, talk to Raul. He's awesome, and I thank him for everything that he's done for my son, and everything that he's doing for these kids and families in Honduras with everything that he's got to juggle. We all have different approaches as teachers, different preferences, different ways that we can get to people, right? And it's important that we all, as practitioners of the art or curious of the art, that we visit these places and find which one works for us, right? Just like going through a library of books, right? You don't need all the books, but maybe these 5 just really changed your life. So I encourage you to try different classes until you find what makes you happy. Some people teach different ways, and it works for you, not necessarily just my approach or Rudy's approach, or Steve's approach. We all have different approaches. But I would say that there is something to a loyalty. There is something to when you find a place and you stay and you accept the years and years of hardship from a teacher. It took them 20 years to give you a gift that that you learned in just one day that helped your game. That's heavy to just learn that and then leave or open up a school down the street or something like that. In that aspect, yeah, it's disrespectful to me. But man, don't be afraid to go out and test these schools and find your place, find what makes you feel happy, the crowd that makes you feel good, and makes you feel like you want to tackle your conflicts and your problems and your issues, because that's what jiu-jitsu is, man. We're studying the art of chaos and warfare for the sake of creating peace. So essentially, our warrior's duty is the study of peace through war, right? So go for it. Don't be afraid.
And thank you all for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Support also the next audiobook is going to be rolling in Amazon very soon. And it's been an awesome conversation.
Dude,
Jesse,
thank you,
thank you so
brother.
much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the first of many. So
Cool, man.
expect looking and hearing from us very soon. And see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks, bro. Thanks again.